Welcome everyone to another exciting episode of Everything Zen, your home of the Zenescope multiverse. We cover everything, everywhere. Well, maybe not all at once, but we will cover quite a bit. From grim fairy tales to Phoenix Files to Van Helsing, Everything Zen is your Everything Zenescope podcast. I'm your host, Mark Sells, and we've been a little busy these last few months, but spring is here and we're back and better than ever. We've got a lot of great things in store for you this year, starting with a brand new format. It's much simpler and streamlined. We've got some fancy new podcast artwork, a special shout out to our stellar graphic design team. We'll be focused on one featured guest at a time. And those special guests will range anywhere from Zenescope creators, writers, and artists to all kinds of entertainers that span the wonderful worlds of pop and comic book culture. To kick things off for March in 2023, it's hard to contain our excitement. Our featured guest is an award-winning actress on stage, performing alongside Tom Hanks and Mark Rylance. She made her television debut on Guiding Light and her feature film debut alongside Tim Robbins and Rachel McAdams in the military drama The Lucky Ones. She played FBI senior agent Kim Fisher on The Mentalist, Amara, aka The Darkness in Supernatural, and most recently, she plays the Armorer in the Star Wars hit series, The Mandalorian. Of course, we're talking about Emily Swallow, an incredible talent hailing from Washington, D.C., who earned a bachelor's degree in Middle Eastern Studies from the University of Virginia, all before transitioning into acting full-time with an MFA from New York University's prestigious Tisch School of the Arts. Post-grad, she had a successful run on Broadway and stage, while simultaneously growing her film and television career with recurring roles on such shows as Southland, Monday Mornings, SEAL Team, and How to Get Away with Murder. This month, she returns to The Mandalorian to provide spiritual guidance and sage wisdom to Din Djarin on his journey to become a Mandalorian once more. We sat down with Emily to talk about her transition from State Department to stage, working with Jon Favreau and the collaborative team behind her beloved character, the Armorer, the convention circuit and impact of Star Wars, and all the exciting opportunities coming up for this very accomplished artist. Emily Swallow joins us right now on Everything Zen. Zenophiles, today we are going to a galaxy far, far away. We are thrilled to have the spectacular Emily Swallow with us here on Everything Zen. Emily, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Now, I'd like to start by asking you a little about your acting journey, because I did a little research and found it really interesting that you grew up in Virginia, went to a prep school in Jacksonville, where you did some theater production there, but graduated from the University of Virginia with a degree, if I'm not mistaken, in Middle Eastern Studies. Is that right?
Yes.
And that was before you then went to NYU and got an MFA in acting. So how did Middle Eastern Studies come into the picture, and who or what changed after your undergrad that convinced you to go to the Big Apple and hop on the stage?
Well, that doesn't seem like a natural progression to you?
It does not.
I have always loved performing. I've always loved, I would say my way into performing was music. My parents were always singing, always playing instruments. And there was never anybody in my direct circle that performed professionally. So I just never really considered it as a career choice. But there was a love of theater, of music, just of the arts in general. And we would go see, touring shows that would come to town. I sang in the church choir when I was a kid, and I performed in plays in school, but I was interested in so many things. And so it was something that I loved, but it wasn't something that I had zeroed in on as, the thing that I was, I guess, supposed to do with my life. And so I was very, very fortunate that I was at the University of Virginia, where they had a really wonderful drama department, but you could participate without being a drama major, and they were welcoming to everyone. So yeah, I was really interested in foreign affairs and international diplomacy. And I thought that I wanted to pursue a career in the State Department and to be a foreign service officer, and was focused on the Middle East as a region where I wanted to work. So I did a Middle Eastern Studies major because that was an interdisciplinary major. And so my time at UVA was basically split between that as my major and then doing a whole lot of stuff in the drama department, acting in plays and directing plays. And I sang in various choral groups. And I had encouragement from a few different acting teachers and directors there into the department who saw how much I loved it. And I guess thought that I was somewhat talented at it. And they said, maybe you should consider pursuing this as a career if you love it. And I was at a place where I did love it, but I needed that extra encouragement from someone on the outside to say, yes, you are good at this. I don't think I had the confidence in myself yet. And I'm so grateful that I had other people kind of pushing me along. And one of my acting teachers helped me work up. I think at the time when I had to do all these auditions, I could do like 12 different monologues from various genres at the drop of a hat. So I did the rounds of all the grad school auditions. I got into NYU, which I knew enough to know that was a really good program.
Right.
And I also knew enough to know that if I was going to pursue it as a career, I did want more training. I wanted to have more tools in my tool belt because I had done a few shows that showed me that there were characters that were definitely beyond my reach with what I could rely on just based on my instincts. There were ways that I wanted to be able to transform that I just didn't have the facility to do. And I'm so glad that I made that decision to go to NYU. And it was so wonderful to get to know New York while I was in a training program, so that then when I got out and started working professionally, which is shocking enough to one system, I already sort of had the lay of the land of the city, and it was a little more friendly to me. And strategically speaking, in terms of navigating, telling one's parents about a career choice, normally it would be kind of shocking to tell your parents that you want to move to New York and be an actor. But when the alternative was that I was going to go to the Middle East and be a diplomat, they were like, New York, great, fantastic. So that was pretty smart too.
Absolutely. So you get your master's, and then you have this incredible career on Broadway, and such productions like King Lear, A Midsummer Night's Dream, The Taming of the Shrew, for which you won a Falstaff Award. You got to share the stage with Bridge of Lies actors Tom Hanks and Mark Rylance. From childhood through Broadway, who would you say was the most influential in your career, and why?
Oh, wow. Well, all of those shows were not on Broadway. I did one Broadway show. All of those shows were on stage, but various theaters. Who is the most influential? I think getting to work with Mark Rylance that was a bucket list item that I had. And it was such a phenomenal experience working on, it was a play called Nice Fish that we did. And it was the Guthrie Theater in Minneapolis. And it was a play that he had co-written with a poet named Louis Jenkins. And he was co-directing it with his wife, Claire, and he was acting in it as well. And we came to rehearsals with a full script, but we also developed the script further while we were in rehearsals. So we were improvising scenes. We were sort of creating these characters in the rehearsal process, which was just so delicious. And it was wonderful to get to watch an actor who I had so long admired go through his process and to see just how thorough he is. And I mean, he's a genius, you know, he's touched by God with something special, but he is also just so thorough and you know, goes back to the basics in a way that is so workmanlike. And I would say that about every single actor that I've worked with who I'd be tempted to put on a pedestal as somebody who is, you know, superior perhaps to the rest of us in their skill. They are all similar in the fact that they work incredibly diligently at the basics of the craft, which is such a good reminder to me that there's never a point where you are above having to do the fundamentals of the work.
Right.
You never surpass having to go back to the nuts and bolts of building a character and building the story. And so that was such a great lesson in working with Mark. And that show is just such a blast because there were parts of the show that we improvised every single night. You know, we had the script, we had parts of scenes that were fully written out and fully scripted, and we followed the same every night. And then there would be a section where we all agreed anything could happen. And it was terrifying and it was amazing. And I got to try things that scared the bejesus out of me. And I got to learn things that stretched me and made me grow. And I'm just so grateful that I had that experience.
That's great. Well, you know, and shortly thereafter, 2013, seems like it was a breakout year for you. You landed a key role on Monday Mornings, and then along comes The Mentalist. Was the shift into television intentional? Was the plan to use the stage as kind of a launching pad for a career in film and television, or were you just kind of taking it one opportunity at a time?
It's funny to look back and see strategy where there often is none, because
right?
the latter is true. I really so many things I have just taken one opportunity at a time. And that has served me very well because from the outside, it can often seem like there is a very deliberate trajectory, but I have found that I have so little control over the opportunities that come to me and when they come to me. And as long as I just do my work and I'm prepared for each audition, you know, I work hard on every single one of them and I have no control over which ones are going to come through. So I love theater and I love television and film. And I try to find a good balance between them. I definitely do more TV these days, but I still try to make room for doing a play every year or two, because I do feel like I learn the most doing theater. It really grows me that way. And yeah, that was just wonderful. It was time, I guess, for me to do some TV and to stretch that way. And I actually auditioned for Monday Mornings while I was once again at the Guthrie. I was performing in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. And I was out of town during pilot season, which is sort of, at the time, it was sort of a sin. You know, you weren't supposed to leave town during pilot season. You're supposed to be available. You're supposed to be, you know, ready for whatever opportunities come up. But this was a play that I was longing to do. And I think that was the key. I was in my element, performing a role that was really feeding me creatively. So these auditions that I was sending in on tape, I think were really good auditions because I was in such a great creative space. And so they responded well to my audition tape for Monday Mornings. And I got to go do that project. And then I guess, I don't remember exactly with the timing for The Mentalist following off of that, but it was Monday Mornings was such a wonderful creative experience too. I mean, working with Alfred Molina and Bill Irwin and Ving Rhames, and having such a great mix of actors who had a strong theater background and actors who had a strong television background, and such a wonderful, generous ensemble cast. I learned a lot from that one too.
This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. Mental health affects so many variables in our day-to-day lives. How we think, how we feel, and how we act. And it's important at every stage of life, from childhood through adulthood. Fortunately, to help us navigate all those waters and improve our emotional, psychological, and social well-being, there's BetterHelp. It's all one word. That's better, H-E-L-P. At BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 25,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a wide range of issues, and it's 100% online. You just answer a few questions about your needs and preferences in therapy. That way, BetterHelp can match you with the right therapist from their network. Then, you can talk to your therapist however you feel comfortable, whether it's via text, chat, phone, or video call. And the best part, you can message your therapist at any time. Schedule live sessions when it's most convenient for you. And if your therapist isn't the right fit for any reason, you can switch to a new therapist at no additional charge. With BetterHelp, you get the same professionalism and quality you expect from in-office therapy, but with a therapist who is custom-picked just for you. More scheduling flexibility and at a more affordable price. Visit betterhelp.com/Zenescope for 10% off your first month of therapy. With BetterHelp, get matched with a therapist who will listen and help you today.
And it all led you to Star Wars.
It all led to Star Wars.
It was all part of the plan.
It was.
Your character, the Armorer, is one of the most beloved characters in Star Wars in The Mandalorian. The keeper of Mandalorian history and culture, the Yoda or Zen Master, the Mando. And for the record, the first to utter that famous line, what was that phrase again?
Oh, I don't remember. This is the way, something like that.
It's something like that. The new version of May the Force be with you. And that has to feel pretty good, I would imagine, to be part of a cultural phenomenon. You've got Baby Yoda, and this is the way.
Oh my gosh, it's ridiculous. It's so much fun.
How would you describe your character and role in The Mandalorian?
I would describe her, she is the mentor to Din Djarin, and she is the keeper of, I feel like in many ways she's the heart and the conscience of the Mandalorian people. And she is the one who is desperately trying. Well, I don't feel like desperate is a good word ever to use with her, because she has such a steadiness that she's never desperate. But she's patiently keeping them together in spite of all of the divisions that have come up amongst them. And she reminds them what it is that unites them. And patience, I think, is such an important word for her. I admire her patience. I strive to co-opt some of her patience, because she is far more patient than I am. And John and Dave and I have talked a lot about her and her foresight. And she's not a prophet in the sense that, I mean, she doesn't see the future in any clear way, but she does sort of have a sense of things that may be to come. I feel like she has a sort of a sixth sense about things and a feeling about things. And she tries to guide Din Djarin as best she can without ever dictating what he must do. I mean, she certainly does sort of dictate that he is a Mandalorian no more. You know, she lays down boundaries and rules when she needs to. But I think she also does that when she knows that there are important lessons that need to be learned. And she's always kind of pushing him to be better. And he, so far, every time he has stepped up to that challenge. And I think she sees something in him that she knows will rise to the occasion. And I love their relationship. I love seeing how he's really grown into that.
We all do. You mentioned John and Dave and sort of that collaboration, creating the character of the armorer. And you also talked about how exciting it was working with Mark Rylance in terms of that collaboration and the exhilaration of creating something. Is there a particular aspect or aspects to the armorer that you inspired and are most proud of?
Oh, golly. It's funny. I feel so, I always feel like I'm trying to be in service to her because I feel like she is in service to Din and to the Mandalorians. I have to remind myself, I guess, sometimes that I am her. because I sort of put her up on a little bit of a pedestal, and I am so grateful to her because I feel like, and I always get to learn from the characters that I play. But she is definitely, and there are, of course there are parts of me in her, but I feel like she is such a better version of me. She is constantly, like I said, she's much more patient than I am. She's much more trusting than I am. And she has a level of faith that I am constantly trying to connect to. Mm-hmm. And that is something that I've really tried to bring to her because, I think that she does have a faith that I think all of us would like to have at various times in our lives. She is willing to be in discomfort. She is willing to have people push back against her. She's willing to go through a fair amount of suffering. We've seen her and her people go through a lot of suffering. And I think that even, having to send Din Djarin away, I would venture to say, even though we don't ever get to really gain a lot of insight into her personal feelings, I don't think that was easy for her to do that, because I do think that she's got a personal attachment to him. But I aspire in my own life to have a faith in my own personal beliefs and in my own personal connection to God and my spiritual connection that is strong enough that I can let go of my attachment to comfort and my attachment to control and power, and to trust that the best thing will happen. Mm-hmm. Man, that's uncomfortable sometimes. And so getting to work through that for her, I feel like it is a good reminder for me that you know what, that's a good thing to do.
What's more prestigious than an Oscar? If you answered Zenny, you would be correct. The votes have all been tallied, and the second annual Zennies will be broadcast live on Thursday, March 23rd, 6 p.m. Eastern on Zenescope's Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube channels. The best of the best, you can stop by and see if all your favorites take home the big prizes. You also won't want to miss Elias Chadzudis' 2023 Zennies collectible covers, hot off the red carpet. Mark your calendars. The 2023 Zennies are coming Thursday, March 23rd at 6 p.m. There are many mysteries hidden within the powers of the Black Knight. Peyton Parks returns to Camelot to keep those secrets out of the hands of the malevolent Morgan Le Fay. With the fate of Camelot and Wonderland hanging in the balance, the next harrowing chapter in the legend of the Black Knight continues with Myths and Legends Quarterly, Black Knight, Legends of Fate. Releasing on Wednesday, March 29th, along with issue number 70 of Grim Fairy Tales, which has Skye and her allies battling an evil that the world has not seen since the dawn of man. They drew first blood. Not me. Watch the movie that spawned 4 sequels, an animated television series, comic books, video games, and even a Bollywood remake. That's Rambo First Blood, our movie of the month for March. Interact with Ralph, Brian, Marilyn, Casey, Noah, and the gang on March 22nd as they discuss one of Sylvester Stallone's most iconic roles. A film that helped revitalize the cutlery industry in the 80s due to the display and prominent use of all those knives. And don't forget to stick around for Sun Kumanaki's Movie Club collectibles. And lastly, March is well known for its madness, of course, but it's also a great time to do some spring cleaning. That's why here at Zenescope, we're right smack in the middle of a week-long spring cleaning sale. Stu and his warehouse crew are trying to make some room and move out all kinds of excess goodies, from metal cards and books to regular and Z-rated art prints. And oh yeah, we've even got a mystery box coming. The Zenescope spring cleaning sales run daily through Friday, March 24th.
I read that you, had you known you were auditioning for Star Wars, you may have been a lot more nervous. Do you still get giddy on the set of The Mandalorian, immersed in the universe, putting on the armor now that we're in season 3? Or is it, oh no, another 9 hours in the suit today?
Oh my gosh, it never gets old. It's so much fun. And it's because, first of all, being surrounded by the volume is just ridiculously cool, because there was a scene this past season that of course I can't tell you about because you haven't seen it yet, but I walked onto the set and I honestly could not tell where the practical set pieces ended and the volume began, because it is that realistic. So we get to be immersed in these beautiful worlds. But also, everyone who works on the show maintains that feeling of childlike glee that we are working on Star Wars. So everyone contributes to that. Nobody takes it for granted. And everyone cares so passionately about what we're doing. Everyone works so hard. And it's never run of the mill. I mean, of course, there are days when it gets uncomfortable being in the suit. I mean, when we were shooting that first episode, and there were long days when we were out in the sun fighting that invisible gator, turtle, dragon, dinosaur, whatever, and we were wet and sandy, it starts to chafe a little bit. It's a little uncomfortable, but who cares? We know it's going to look incredible. So we just make jokes to each other and give each other a hard time, and it's all worth it.
Did George Lucas ever stop by the set to check on you?
To check on me personally? No.
Yes.
How dare he?
What is up with that?
I know, right?
Some fans speculate that the armor is Sabine Wren, a well-known Mandalorian warrior. Some suggest ties to Darth Maul, who once ruled the Mandalorians. We all know the Disney snipers are all around us waiting to strike. But have there been, and if you need to, you can just, smile, nod, shake your head. But have there been any discussions about the armor's backstory, who she is, and revealing more about her personal story in the future?
If there have been, I have not been privy to them.
All right, so we'll step slowly away from the NDA sensitive questions. With your involvement in Supernatural and Star Wars, you've been part of the comic book convention world and will be a lot more this year, I believe. What's been your favorite moment from a convention or favorite fan interaction so far?
I think there's so many wonderful moments. And so I don't want to discount any others by naming one. I get tense when I have to answer questions about favorites. One of my favorites, though, because it was just so special, was the first time when I was at a convention in Indianapolis, when I got to meet a little girl who was cosplaying as the armorer. Her name is Gracie.
Aww.
And and it just, I mean, it melted my heart. And it was such a special moment because it felt like it was the first time I really understood the impact that the character was having, and to get to see a little girl who was aspiring to be the armorer just moved me so much. And she was just so adorable. And I was blown away because her dad had made her cosplay. And it was such a special thing to get to meet her. And this was still just coming out of COVID, and I was still sort of, I had no idea the impact that the character would have, because I was on set for maybe 7 days, season 1, and I didn't have that much screen time. And it has just really, really moved me that the fans have attached to the armorer so much, and that they do embrace her, and that they love her. And that was sort of one of the first moments where that started to hit me, that she was having such a big impact.
That's a great story. I love it. Looking ahead, what type of role or genre would you like to get into and explore that you haven't, or explore more of? You got to do some voiceover work on Castlevania, some video games. Would you like to do more of that? Return to the stage a lot more? What are some of your acting goals?
Well, I would definitely like to get back to I used to do musicals a lot more, and I miss that. So musical of some kind, be it on stage or, there's more and more musical stuff happening on TV and in film. I would like to do some much sillier stuff. I mean, I spent so much time while we were waiting around on set on Mando, coming up with reality shows in the Mandalorian universe. And I just love taking, the exact opposite of a lot of the serious stuff that I'm in, and coming up with absolute idiocy, and creating things, creating sketches and collaborating with people. And I love creating in community, and I have no interest in doing a solo show, one person show. That's never been anything I want to do. I just love working in community. And so maybe something sillier, now that I've played all these very formidable, imposing ladies. I want to just be a big doofus.
Well, speaking of which, I loved your last video post on social, the lonely armorer with the help of Miley Cyrus. And for our listeners out there, please check out @Big ES Walls with a Z at the end. It's really great. Last question is, what's up next for you after The Mandalorian? More television, more Broadway, spring vacation? Anything you'd like to plug?
A whole lot of conventions for sure. I also, I guess along the lines of what you just asked, what I'd like to do, there's a web series that I shot a couple of years ago. That's a really fun mockumentary that has just been released on YouTube. It's called Adoptable. So you can see a very different side of the armorer. And all the episodes are there, and you can watch it for free. And there's a short film that I did that we're shopping around to festivals right now called The Marked. So hopefully people will be able to see that soon. And I'm just auditioning like we actors do. Well,
Emily, I have to tell you, this has been an absolute dream. On behalf of this fanboy, my family and friends who are huge Mandalorian fans, our Zenescope faithful, thank you for all that you do, and for bringing such grace and class to the Star Wars universe.
Oh, thank you for saying so. I appreciate that.
Season 3 of The Mandalorian is streaming right now on Disney+. You can always go back and rewatch the first 2 seasons like I'm doing right now. Don't forget to squeak in Episode 5, The Return of the Mandalorian, in the Book of Boba Fett, which is also on Disney+. Outside of Star Wars, you can catch Emily Swallow in The Mentalist, streaming on the Roku channel. And How to Get Away with Murder and Supernatural are both available in their entirety on Netflix. And that'll wrap things up for now. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you all again next time, right here on Everything Zen.